Hello.
What's going on, guys?
Welcome to this Oscar edition of the show. For at least 3 movies. There's only one left that I have to see. There's 2 left I gotta review. I have seen Shape of Water, but I haven't seen Phantom Thread yet. And Phantom Thread hasn't even come to Springfield. You said, and you're gonna be floating around there too, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to be there on Saturday. I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to meet Sean Bean. And and see if he can survive a con. And if the con is bad, he'll survive. If the con is good...
the Jupiter ascending rule.
Yeah.
So these 3 movies, we didn't actually just watch these. It's been a few days for me that I saw all 3 of these movies. I know we're used to just coming in the car and everything right after we see them, but I've actually had a few days since I've seen these, and I think even longer for you, right?
Yeah, I saw the Post.
Yeah.
And what's the other one we're doing? I haven't slept.
We're going to be talking about The Post, Call Me By Your Name, and Darkest Hour.
Yeah, there's the other one.
I had to think about that too.
I saw Darkest Hour way, way back.
Right.
Like a month, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's been a while. But
I'm so used to in these, we just go directly from the movie to the car. So really just a few days is like an eternity for me to be talking about something that I saw theatrically. So, okay, we'll start with The Post first. I guess I'll just start with the order I watched them in the other day. I'm not sure which one you saw first.
It would have been Darkest Hour, then The Post, and then Call Me By Your Name.
All out of order for me. Completely out of order. I saw The Post, Call Me By Your Name, and then I watched Darkest Hour. So, okay, you want to talk about The Post first?
Yeah,
right.
The Post is based on the government kind of hiding the war in Vietnam facts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those movies, I'll say this right now, if you've looked up the real story, you kind of got to take the movie with a big old grain of salt.
Sure.
But if you just watch the movie and enjoy it first, it's a pretty good investigative journalism type of movie.
It should make you very nervous at first because the guy who discovers all of this about Vietnam and everything, who is their informant, is Matthew Rhys from The Americans. So this could go either way. He could actually be a Russian spy giving us this information. This movie, The Post, you couldn't really assemble a better way to get an Oscar nomination if you tried. This is a movie that is coming out the end of the year, Oscar season. It's directed by Steven Spielberg. It's about journalism. I mean, it's also a period piece in the late 60s and early 70s, yet has a plot line and themes that could also be relevant to today. So there's that going on with it. It's, starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. Of course this is going to get an Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
Of course it is. And you feel that when you're watching it. The movie, it's good. Of course it is. It's got an interesting enough story. The direction of it is, of course, great. The acting in it, it's Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. They do excellent in this movie. And I was fairly entertained throughout it. It actually felt like it went by fairly fast for me when I was watching it. It's an under 2-hour movie. It's barely under 2 hours, but it's under 2 hours, which I can't say about the other 2 movies we're reviewing tonight. But watching a movie with the plot that it has, the direction behind it, the acting behind it, and not just, Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, but also Tracy Letts is in this movie. It's got a big cast. I felt like the movie should have been greater than what it was. Yeah. Now it's good. Of course it's good. At the least with this cast and this plot. Yeah, it's going to be at the least good. But it felt like a movie that was trying to be good enough to get an easy Oscar nomination, and it doesn't really go beyond that. It doesn't ever really get great. It doesn't ever really feel great. It feels like yeah, it's good, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, for me, the issues I had with this movie, everyone's praising Meryl Streep's performance, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say her performance sucked or anything like that, but I mean, it almost seems like the thing to give her the nod.
Sure.
Every year. And I think she's been better. Not saying... she was good in this.
Yeah, no, totally.
And she worked really good with Tom Hanks, especially. They had some great scenes together. But I feel like this was one they're just like, well... Because it had kind of a female power message to it. You know,
she's the first... owner of a first female owner of a newspaper.
Her husband committed suicide.
Yeah,
and she took over. I feel like that message was a little forced in this.
Well,
movie.
I like the arc that she had, where by the end of it she kind of gains a voice.
And and that worked for me.
Yeah, like she's very shy and standoffish a bit at first, especially in meetings and whatnot, but you see an arc with her character. You see how she really comes into her own by the end of the movie. And again, yeah, of course Meryl Streep can play a part like this and do it well. I agree. I can think, just right off the top of my head, I can think of someone I'd rather see get a nomination, and it would have been Michelle Williams for All the Money in the World over this movie. But yeah, again, there was some casting though, because Bob Odenkirk is in this.
He's my favorite part of this movie.
No, yeah, and he's great, and he's great in the film. He has some of the best moments in the movie, especially when you see this part in the trailer where he's got the box of papers on the plane with him. It's like, oh, it's just government secrets here. And Bob Odenkirk, we've certainly seen at this point that he can do drama. Like, he's certainly proven himself as a dramatic actor. But this movie's also got David Cross in it.
That caught me for a little bit of a loop.
And don't get me wrong.
Wait a minute. It's Bob and David.
Yeah, it's Bob and David are in this movie. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, he's good. He is. But when you have these scenes where there are good scenes where they're standing around, they're trying to assemble all these papers and put them in the correct order. They're having all of these meetings and everything about whether or not they're going to have to go to the Supreme Court, and then, you know, Nixon having like a war against journalism and everything. So there are dramatic scenes on there. But with Bob and David in these scenes, in these group scenes, you expect there to be some comedic twist. Yeah. Like, it's all this drama, but then the reveal is like, this is a story about, oh no, like, this is a story about, you know, whether or not Kim Kardashian has ass implants. Yeah. Like, that's the reveal here. Like, oh, you got me. Okay. So that was kind of funny casting and everything, but I don't know how fair it is to this movie, but I was constantly thinking about Spotlight during it.
Yeah, I see. Spotlight was my favorite movie that year.
It was one of mine that year. It made my top 10. By far,
it made my top 1. It won the Opie. That's the opinion, or the Real Opinion Awards. It won my Best Picture.
Yeah.
And I that's the whole time I was thinking, it's like, yeah, this movie's good, but it's not Spotlight good.
I've seen, it's like I've seen just other things like this, and recently, that are better and feel more authentic. This movie, it feels like you're watching a very well-made movie with great actors to certainly get Oscar nominations and have that Oscar push. There was something just more authentic about Spotlight. There was something more suspenseful about it. There was something more real about it. When they were doing investigative journalism in Spotlight, it was edited so well, written so well, that it took a plot line about reporters and journalism and this investigation that they had, and it made it feel fresh. This movie feels like it's just one of these movies. And even then, you've seen even stuff from the 70s, like All the President's Men did it better than this. Or a movie like Zodiac had themes of investigative journalism that are better than this. And it has this ending that, like, leads directly into Watergate.
Yeah.
That almost feels sequel baity in a way. I was like, I don't think they're really sequel baiting, but
I was wondering, I was like, are we getting the post too?
Yeah. I was hoping it would zoom out and it's Forrest Gump making the call about the Watergate break-in. How great would that be? I would be like, okay, you know what? In this last remaining second, you've convinced me this movie deserves all of these Oscar nominations.
I don't know about you, but this movie kind of came out of nowhere that it even existed.
Dude,
for me.
Yeah,
because all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's this movie. Spielberg made a movie, and it's got Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a norm, but
sure.
But it's like it came out of nowhere where it was you didn't even know about it. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, we got this Oscar contender that you just found out about, and it'll be in theaters in a couple months.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of threw me for a loop.
Unfortunately
for me, I liked it. I would recommend it.
See, certainly.
But I would recommend other things before, because as we were talking with Spotlight, when they see for this movie, the investigative reporting, though Odenkirk's character kind of has most of the quote unquote investigative stuff, where he goes and he figures out where this guy is and tracks him down and all stuff, and that stuff is great.
Yeah.
But the rest of it's just kind of suspense of, can we run these or not? Can we run these or not? And what I find funny about this movie, and it comes with that big grain of salt, I guess the New York Times is not real happy about this movie because, as you saw in the movie, they had a lot of the papers first. Yeah. And they, in real life, the story was a little more lopsided. Okay. Where, the Washington Post was able to do things, but the New York Times had a way bigger part to play in this, and they kind of really downplayed them till the end, where it was the little paper done good for the movie, where they did good in real life, but the New York Times is really pushing this stuff too. So
it's like you said, I mean, any movie that's based on a true story, you certainly got to take with a grain of salt. Like, and some differences between fact and fiction or real life in a movie. Some of it can be more forgiving than others. Yeah. Sometimes it might be something that will take you out of the movie, or maybe like it'll just kind of like ruin the movie a little bit. I don't know off the top of my head, but like, I mean, it's a big Hollywood movie. Like it's gonna have differences. And I'm fine with that. I get it. I understand that from a narrative purpose. I understand it from a story purpose. But yeah, no, if you want to, if you're really, really curious and you want to see something on this issue, I'm sure you could probably find some documentaries on it.
Yeah, there's a cool website that I go to called History versus Hollywood. Yeah. And they kind of compare, well, here's this character, here's that character, here's what they really look like. They do the looks. Yeah. And then they say, well, did this happen? And they investigate it. And it's kind of cool to watch. So yeah, if you're looking for the real story, watch a documentary. But if you want a decently entertaining investigative journalism movie, watch this. Watch Spotlight first, but then watch this. Yeah,
overall, this is a movie that it feels like it should be great because of everything that's the people in front of the camera and the people behind the camera, and it's just pretty good. Like it's just a good movie. I am not one of those who's like, well, it wasn't a masterpiece, so that means it sucks. No, like there are very good things about this movie. I don't think this movie should be up for Best Picture. I don't think, but granted, that's just my opinion. I don't think this is one of the this would not. This did not make my 10 best movies of the year list. It just kind of is what it is, and it's fine, and it's totally fine. But like I said, even from the trailer, you can tell like you couldn't manufacture a more like Oscar-looking movie if you tried.
The trailer for this almost felt like the fake trailers that they have come up with on, like, say, the John Oliver show, where it's real dramatic, and then granted, those are funnier, but it's just real, just dun dun, and when this happens, dun dun, and that's how this whole movie kind of feels in a way. Like I said, effective movie. I enjoyed it, but not Best Picture material. But did it get nominated for Best Picture this year?
It did. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't agree with that, but that's me too.
Well, let's move on to the next one here. Call Me by Your Name, which is a movie that takes place in 1983, and Armie Hammer plays a graduate student who is invited out to it's like northern Italy,
something like that. Yeah, they don't even really specify. They're like somewhere in.
I thought that's what it said, like somewhere in northern Italy or something like that, and he's spending the summer up there with his professor, who has a 17-year-old son.
Yeah.
And the two of them start hanging out together. They start bonding together. Eventually, this relationship happens between the two of them. That's a very, like, summer romance, really. And that's really what this movie is. The movie, it almost feels like it's a Terrence Malick movie with focus. Like, if it actually felt like it had a point. It's a very slice of life movie. It really is just kind of showing this situation between these two. It's going through all of these stages of meeting and flirting, and their egos going back and forth, having these almost sexually tension-filled arguments with each other about, like, music and other things. Eventually, this relationship happens, and you find out some things about the dad's past that kind of make a reason for why he's kind of noticed everything going on with Armie Hammer and the son, and how when a relationship like this, sorry, all of these will have some spoilers in them, but it also kind of shows, like, heartbreak that can go along with a short-term romance like this, a summer fling. So I enjoyed that the movie felt authentic in regards to a lot of different things, like little things. No matter what sexuality you are, you can look at some of the ways that they're flirting, some of their conversations that they're having, even some of the heartbreak in the film. There's certain things you could maybe, like, apply to your own, like, past, and other things too. I like the scenery in this film, and the music, certainly, and little things too. Like, I really liked how there are shots where, like, the two of them might be having lunch or something like that outside, and you hear, like, cars go by behind them, and because of that, they're talking louder to talk over some traffic that's happening behind them. It was little things like that I really appreciated about this, and felt really, really authentic, and felt really real. Overall, I enjoyed this movie. It's maybe a little longer than it needs to be. It's over 2 hours, about 2 hours and 10 minutes long. You could maybe trim here and there, but it's a good looking movie. The acting's fantastic. It, like a lot of movies that are nominated for Best Picture or end up on year-end lists, like, it's a movie that certainly isn't for everyone. Like, it's not anything, I think, that's going to be like a huge crowd pleaser for any kind of mainstream audience, but whatever. Like, not every movie has to be that. I understand why somebody would watch this movie and not care that much for it, but no, I did enjoy this movie. Don't know if it was something that I'd watch again, but when it got to, like, the last act and the remaining minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, this feels like a really, like, Oscar heavy version of, like, Last American Virgin from the early 80s.
You know what really, this film had some weird stuff in it, but it was real stuff that a confused kid might deal with. I mean, I've seen a lot of jokes on other reviews where, okay, there's a scene that involves, what were they, apricots that they were growing, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
then Jim's dad from American Pie walks in.
And someone made a joke that it was, this movie meets American Pie, so you kind of get where I'm going with the apricot.
Okay, well, I never did that in my youth.
Well, but I'm just saying, this kid, he seems, he's never had sex at the beginning of the movie, and I guess they go to this home every summer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then the dad always has a student come in, and he always tests the student, and of course Armie Hammer, like, by flying colors, does great, I guess. He loves him, but...
That dad is also up to something.
Yeah.
When he's showing those statues and everything to Armie Hammer, like, I think another relationship's about to happen in this.
But the son, just... I guess they go back every summer and they see some of the same kids and thing like that, because... I guess he was interested in one girl, then all of a sudden he's interested in another. So it deals with that relationship, and he just seems like he doesn't know what he is, and really by the end of the movie, he kind of does, but I think he kind of doesn't still. Because I'm not going to say I had a problem with the relationship between him and Armie Hammer's character. The motivations were really interesting because the kid was in love.
Yeah.
But that look that Armie Hammer's character gives when he gets on the train, it's like he knows he is going to mess this kid up.
Yeah.
By leaving, because he doesn't wave goodbye, he doesn't smile at him, he looks at him, turns his head and frowns. And with what happens after that, you almost see it coming that there was a bit of a twist to Armie Hammer's character, where his character was going after this summer ended.
Because it felt like the two of them were one and the same in that, not what I mean by that is that, like, Armie Hammer's character was probably this kid once in his past, and has enough experience at this point to really kind of know what becomes of this summer fling like this, but because the two do have a lot of stuff in common and everything, you do certainly see some care there.
See, that's what I was questioning. I was questioning his motivation, because at first he kind of resists the kid. Yeah. And the kid gets pretty straightforward with him. Yeah. Near the first. And, even though the kid has never done anything with anybody, he's just like, I think I want this, and he goes for it. Yeah. And Armie Hammer is just like, I want to be good. Right, he's like, and you almost think he's hiding something, which you find out he kind of is. So his motivation always, I question his motivation on how much he cared about the kid. I think he did, but still,
same here.
I think he ended up thinking, well, I know I'm going to hurt him, but I still care and I want to be with him. So that's kind of what I got out of that relationship. Because if this movie would have had a happy ending, I don't think it would have worked as well, because the younger character almost needed to have this heartbreak. Those end credits, were just them hurt, because of what happens right before, and then just the whole time. Let's just say they stay on a shot the entire time during the credits, the whole credits. Yeah. And it is one of the most effective scenes in the entire movie.
No, it is. It was one thing too that made me like this movie as much as I did. Yeah. Not that I was disliking it beforehand. No, I was enjoying it. When it got to that though, like, it pulled no punches with its conclusion, and I enjoyed that. The movie is, I get. Would you call this a controversial film?
Well, some people are gonna, because it's like the kid does get with Armie Hammer, but he also gets with this girl that he's with all summer too. He's
17. Armie Hammer's character is 24, and when I was watching this film, I don't know if it had to do with just simply where this movie was taking place or what, but I never got any kind of predatory vibe from this film. No. Now, but that's, people are going to have different opinions about that, which fine. Like, that's all. That's not any kind of, I didn't feel that when I was watching this film. I just thought, like, here's this summer thing that's happening here in northern Italy in 1983.
This movie, did you ever see the movie Carol?
Oh, no, I know what you mean, though.
That movie, a lot of people praise that movie for being progressive and everything else, and all I got out of that movie was the character of Carol was very predatory towards Rooney Mara's character.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if I was going to feel the same thing about this because, I mean, Armie Hammer's supposed to be, 24, 25, you said?
Yeah.
But he's a lot older, and you can tell. Just as an actor, you can tell he's older, right? So, I mean, I wondered if I would get that, but it didn't feel that way because other than just his character motivations, I didn't think he was just trying to use this kid and leave him, because you could tell there was some feeling there. Whereas in Carol, even Rooney Mara's character says no, but then she still kind of, gets in with her, you know what I mean? And it just felt off to me.
Yeah, I never saw that, but I mean, like, it's, you can make a good movie out of just about anything, you can. And I haven't seen that movie, but just like going by this, I thought the movie handled its subject matter perfectly fine.
Very well.
Like, I did. I thought it was a great looking film, and I like the atmosphere in the movie. I like the nightlife and everything in it. It felt real to its time period too. Yeah. It didn't feel like it was a gimmick or anything like that. And the guy who directed this movie is apparently the guy who's doing the remake of Suspiria.
Okay.
And I can kind of see that after this film, I
gotta say the scene with the son and his dad, they have a talk. Near the end of the movie, and that's a fantastic scene.
Yeah, that was.
Because, I mean, I always liked the dad character the entire time.
I did too.
He was just very entertaining, and, he was just kind of fun to listen to, and, you just he just had that dad vibe, right? But then it gets to where they have a talk, and it's a very pivotal scene in the entire movie, and just that entire scene, I mean, it's just two people sitting on a couch chatting, and it's one of the better scenes I've seen in a while. So, I mean, it's like you said, I don't know if it's one I'd watch again, but
same.
But did I like the movie? Darn right I did.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed the film. All right, should we move on to Darkest Hour? The prequel to Dunkirk. Really, you could splice the two movies together. Like,
we were talking before, and you could throw Their Finest in there too.
I never saw that.
We were talking, and I had to see Darkest Hour twice because I was a bit Dunkirked out, because that was the third Dunkirk movie I had seen in the year 2017. I think they're using the subject material just a little too much now, but now that we've it's like they covered all sides. Darkest Hour covered the political side.
Yeah.
Dunkirk covered the war side.
Yeah.
And then Their Finest covered the propaganda side, if you want to call it that, and a crappy love story side. But that's another review for another day.
Pacific Rim Uprising will cover the robot side. It's a very actors film. Yeah. Like you're watching this movie for the performance. Yeah. Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill, and his performance is so great. Like he's my pick to win Best Actor on this. Like, I think, I personally, my guess would be he's a shoo-in to win for Best Actor, because he does carry this movie. You're watching. Yeah. It might as well be like just this one-man show. Like, you'd be walking...
It feels like that a lot.
Yeah, like, you'd be walking along, like, the street, and it's like a marquee for a play that's like, Gary Oldman is Churchill. Like, and he easily carries this film. You forget that it's him a lot. Like, when he first... you see him drinking, you see him just eating a bunch of crap, and he's funny. Like, he's got that humor down and everything. Like, there's some very funny scenes in this movie, some really humorous back and forths and quips and everything. And when he is Winston Churchill in this film, like, you can see the makeup on there and everything. Like, you can tell, like, okay, that's a makeup job and everything. But the performance is so good and so strong that it didn't take me long to really, like, get used to this makeup that's on him, get used to the fact that it's Gary Oldman in this, like, bodysuit and all these prosthetics on. Like, he makes this movie very, very entertaining. And there's very good parts of it, because really the movie is about, it's Winston Churchill, and it's the debate of whether or not to keep fighting or to try to negotiate with Hitler. And there's great moments in the movie. There's the part where he says, like, you don't try to reason with a tiger when your head is in his mouth. Or, like, he's got a great line where he says, like, stop interrupting me while I'm busy interrupting you.
Yeah.
Like, there are great moments like that in this film. And there's funny moments, like when he accidentally he does this instead of showing the peace sign. And there's this funny moment with, like, was it secretary or something like that?
Yeah.
This funny moment
like
with her.
Transcriber, I think is what she was.
It's funny seeing their relationship in the movie and how that grows, because really he's just terrible to this person at the beginning of the movie, but then they have just like really real moments like that where they have this laugh about this picture in the newspaper. And there's a great scene where he is on a train with a bunch of different citizens, and they all recognize him, and it's funny seeing how just warm and human and cool and kind of badass anyway that he even did this in the first place in the movie that he does this. And he's asking them, like, what would you do? What would you do if we tried to negotiate? Or what would you do if we continued to fight and everything? And everyone in there is like, yeah, just kick this Hitler's ass. You know? No, I enjoyed this movie. It's, again, you're watching it for this great Gary Oldman performance. It's like Gary Oldman's Lincoln, you know.
That's a great comparison. There's only a couple times for me that I looked at the guy and I thought, oh yeah, that's Gary Oldman.
Sure.
Because he does lose himself in the character. And one thing I had to do is I had to go watch some real footage of Churchill.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's times where he's talking and it's like you're like, did he really talk? Like, I mean, this is the type of performance that it could either be really good or it could be a caricature. Right? Like something like The Disaster Artist as well is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Where it's like it could go really good or really bad.
Totally.
And I had to go watch some of Real Churchill, and it's like, well, Gary Oldman at times felt like sounded like Droopy Dog. Well, so did the real Churchill, you know. So it's like he's doing it right, you know. And
I like that you kind of addressed in the movie, like, because I didn't have that hard of a time understanding him in this film, but I like that there was a part in the movie where he is kind of mumbling, and a character says to him, like, "What did you say? I missed that. You're mumbling again."
That's one. Are you talking where she's transcribing for him? And he's kind of just mumbling. That's like my favorite scene of the movie.
Yeah.
Because as an art student, we studied Hitler and art.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not going to not negotiate. He's talking to himself, trying to psych himself in or out of the situation. Because he's in the part where he may write the letter saying, we give up. And he's mumbling to himself, and he's like, I'm not going to give up to this tyrant, this, painter, you know, and I love that scene. So, because studying that, it's like you always wonder if Hitler was a successful painter, would any of this ever happen? You know? So I got a kick out of that scene, and plus it was a powerful scene too. But watching him in this, you can tell he's having a heck of a time.
He is. Yeah.
He is. He's chewing up the scenery, but it's in a good way.
No, yeah,
because he really could have went. I mean, if you would have made a comedy out of this and he would have done the same performance, it would have worked. You know,
I agree. I agree, because Winston Churchill was a funny guy, like a funny guy, and a pretty badass too.
Yeah.
Like really, like this guy was like the real fucking deal. And no, you could make something humorous out of that, because he has that sense of humor, and he shows that in this movie.
Yeah, the scene where with this thing.
Yeah.
When they tell him what it means, they're like, it means up your bum, and he's like, up your bum, up your bum, and he goes walking off laughing. You know.
Yeah.
It's if you're watching it for anything, you watch it for Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
In my review, I said that, you know, I'd love to see a hybrid of the three movies about this event, about Dunkirk. I'd love to see a Nolan Dunkirk movie with Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill, and then take the propaganda part out of their finest and dumped the Love Story because the Love Story in that movie sucked.
I never even heard of that movie until like a couple of days ago.
It barely made theaters. I had to travel a little bit for it.
Okay.
I was excited for it, and it was good other than the Love Story because they showed what they were trying, how they were putting an American in the film because they wanted to convince the Americans, well, we'll have an American hero here so the Americans can identify with him, and they get this yokel that can't act.
Was it a Steve movie? Was it Steve from Birth of the Dragon? Did they Steve Dunkirk?
But on purpose. It's like, oh, he's a good-looking, strapping, soldier-looking guy, and then he's talking, he's like, how you doing, guy? Don't know what, It kind of reminded me of that, what's his name from, now I can't think of that movie. The one that had Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson, and where Channing Tatum ended up being a Nazi.
Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar, yeah. His character reminded me of the guy that's going to play Han Solo's character in that, where he's a strapping young man, everyone likes him, but he can't talk and can't act for nothing, It kind of reminded me of that character.
Yeah, okay.
But
this is just weird, man. There's the window up there with a figure standing in it with a flashlight just in this dark room. It looks like we might be reviewing this across from the Myers house.
We're just reviewing movies.
What is happening up there? Just this figure standing. Oh, don't worry. That's just Mother. Like, okay, whatever. It's past her bedtime. It's creeping my shit out. Please. It's moments like this I wish we still had the video camera, or I could just picture every slasher movie you've ever seen. That's what's going on across the way right now. If it's happening in real life, it's just as scary with or without the John Carpenter theme playing.
If this video doesn't upload tomorrow, come looking for us.
Oh, see, no, that's the thing. It will, because it immediately saves once you hit finish.
There you go.
Thank God. That's a benefit of doing this live. It'll still save even if you get killed during it. Now, these three movies, overall, I recommend all three of them to a different extent.
Yeah.
With The Post, you could pay to just see that as a matinee or something. Call Me By Your Name, I really liked a lot. I would recommend you see that, especially at the cinematography is so good in there. It's worth a theatrical experience. And Dunkirk, Darkest Hour, and The Thin Red Line was Darkest Hour. Certainly check it out if it's a type of movie and a subject matter you're really, really interested in. Just on its own, too. It's a really good movie. I would recommend it. You can tell from the trailer, honestly, of any of these movies whether or not it'll be your cup of tea or your kind of thing. Like, it seems like anymore the term Oscar bait is used as like a derogatory term, or like it's a bad thing or something like that. And my thought on that is like, okay, well, that's just like dismissing a summer blockbuster just because it's a summer blockbuster. Are there Oscar bait movies? Yeah, but okay.
They're good, though.
Yeah. They're like anything. They're like a summer blockbuster or an October horror film. Like, you'll have good ones and you'll have bad ones. At least if you're setting out to make them, like The Post, at least if you're setting out to make a movie because, maybe you want to win an Academy Award or at least get nominated, you know what? Like, that's still a high ambition.
Yeah.
Like, talk about Oscar bait stuff all you want. Like, at least, like, if you're doing a movie because you want to win some awards, you're at least trying to make it good. Like, you at least want it to have good qualities. That's a good goal to have. Not saying that movies that are the stereotypical kind of movies that usually get Oscar nominations. Not saying that like a lot of those make up my year-end list or anything like that, because to each their own. But don't dismiss an entire month's worth of movies just because they have the balls to want to be good. Like, yeah, there's shitty Oscar bait movies. There's ones that go horribly, like fucking Collateral Beauty or some shit like that.
You had to bring it
like just off the top of my head because it was just a year ago. Or I don't know. What are some extremely loud and incredibly close, or something like that. Like you can certainly be very cynical about trying to put something out. But no, these movies, they're put out at this time of year so they can make some year-end lists and to get some awards, whether it's Oscars, Golden Globes, People's Choice, whatever. But so these three movies in particular, they didn't make my best movies of the year list this year, but they're still damn good movies. There's great movies that didn't make my 10 best list. There's terrible movies that didn't make my bottom 10. I got asked quite a bit with why King Arthur wasn't in my bottom 10, and it was that close. Like seriously, it was because that movie sucked, and that was one of the funnier midnight screenings of the year. I just saw more than 10 terrible movies.
I watched 150 some movies last year that I could remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a list of I think 50 some that were possible worst. Mm-hmm. And then I had to whittle it down to 5 and 1, and I went personal on it because Transformers was
that your number one?
That was my number one because it insulted me personally as a fan of the 80s movie.
Okay.
Because it took that subject material, flushed it down the toilet, then took another dump on it. Because I was going to go easy and go Emoji Movie. But even that, it's like, my kids could still play with the toys and I would be okay with it. The
Emoji Movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's if they wanted to see it, fine. I'm not going to buy them apps because of it. They can ask, but it ain't happening.
See, you should have seen Let There Be Light because it would have offended you as a person. I didn't put. Transformers 5 was bad. It wasn't on my bottom 10, but it was. It's fucking Transformers 5. It's not like I'm gonna be like. You say like that was your number one worst movie. Yeah. It's not like I'm gonna sit here and go like, "What, dude? Come on." Show some love for Transformers 5.
There were worst movies. Trust me, I know there were worst movies. I mean, because you could put the 50 Shades movie on that list and things like that. Because it can't accept what it should be.
Sometimes it's just what makes you the most mad. I put Transformers 3 at number one worst the year that came out.
But for my awards, I go a little personal because it's kind of my personal feelings picks. I mean, my favorite movie from last year was John Wick Chapter 2.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, but would I say it's the best movie of the year? No, I'd say that was probably Blade Runner or Shape of Water, especially. But, for me, being that the love of movies is subjective, I try to go personal on my picks.
Go with my gut, I get like it. Sometimes it very much is a just on a technical aspect alone. Like the year I put Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas as the worst movie of the year. It was like, did I love sitting through this? Yes, but for the wrong reasons and on a technical aspect alone, I cannot put something above this on worst movie of the year. Hell, my favorite movie of last year was Detroit.
Yeah.
And that didn't get shit for Oscar nominations.
I know. I was really surprised that
I wasn't surprised it didn't.
You didn't think it would get at least like a Best Director nod?
I was hoping it would. I thought it should have. Me personally, I would have given it I'd given it nods for picture, director, supporting actor for Will Poulter. Like absolutely I would have. But it didn't surprise me because it was a movie that when it came out, it kind of came and went, and I wasn't really seeing any buzz about it towards the end of the year. It was my favorite movie of last year. I put it as number one as the best movie of the year, but I knew it wasn't going to get up for Best Picture. I'm not pissed whenever some of my favorite movies of the year don't get nominated for an Oscar. I love watching the Oscars, don't get me wrong, I do, and I love following it. I love seeing the nominations and everything. I'm not pissed whenever like something that I love or one of my favorite movies of the year didn't get nominations, because at the end of the day, it usually is still something that at the least is good.
Well, yeah,
like it's not like, you know,
if it doesn't get that sticker on the DVD, it doesn't ruin your enjoyment of it.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like, at least what is getting nominated, it's like, okay, Detroit wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but it's not like fucking it's not like the fucking Emoji Movie did.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, okay, like people were crying about Boss Baby, but I saw 50 movies last year that were worse than Boss Baby. Boss Baby isn't even the worst movie nominated in that category. I actually didn't think Boss Baby was that bad, but it was. I liked it better than Ferdinand, and that got animated.
I'll disagree with you on that one.
You liked Ferdinand better?
I enjoyed Ferdinand, but only really because I see my oldest son is a big John Cena fan.
Sure.
And I'm a wrestling fan.
Right.
And I knew he was excited for it, and that got me a little excited for it. Was it the greatest movie of all time? No. Was it a story I've already seen? Yes. But, you know, Boss Baby for me, I thought was a little confused as a movie. But Ferdinand was just kind of straightforward, and I knew my kids were going to enjoy it, and I knew that would make me enjoy it. I'm not going to ever say it's best animated movie.
Oh, sure,
you know? I mean, it's pretty much a lock that Coco is going to win that.
Oh, yeah,
this
that's
year.
right, yeah.
Even though in my awards I gave it to Captain Underpants because it was more of a everyone can enjoy it movie, more as Coco. You got to admit, Coco is almost more for adults.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely the better movie. But as just an enjoyment tool that both the whole family can enjoy, I gave it to Captain Underpants myself.
Oh gosh, best animate. Yeah, I don't know. Coco probably, but like, you know, I mean, there's worse movies that could have been put in there than the stuff that didn't get that great of reviews, like Boss Baby and Ferdinand. I mean, those two movies are better than fucking Rock Dog. God. Or Despicable Me 3 or
I was honestly surprised that they didn't put Despicable Me 3 in there instead of Ferdinand.
Kind of am too.
I really figured, especially since I believe didn't 2 win?
I don't know.
I think Despicable Me 2, I know it was nominated. I thought it actually won. I could be wrong. I don't follow the Oscars that close. But
we all do. We have like pools and stuff like that and everything. We grew up watching them, so we still do.
And I get the fun that people have doing it. And I usually check out who wins. I don't watch it very often, but yeah, I figured Despicable Me 3, as bad as it was, and honestly, I was surprised the Emoji Movie didn't either.
I knew that wasn't going to.
I mean, no, but would it have surprised you?
Yes, actually that would have. Boss Baby, I can't say I was surprised, really. Well, maybe a little. I thought it was more funny than anything else, because I was like, oh, Twitter's going to shit themselves over this. I thought that was hilarious. But, like, Emoji Movie, that movie had, at least, like, Boss Baby at the least got just like mixed reviews from critics. Like Emoji Movie's got like a 1 point something on like IMDb, and like it's got like a 4 on Rotten Tomatoes.
I still felt though that it somehow, since there wasn't a ton of animated movies last year, that it might make it. I'm glad it didn't.
It would have been funny as hell.
But you know, I mean, because it's not like dumb movies don't make the nominees list sometimes, you know, so it's just one of those, just like, you know, maybe you just really need to see it, Brad. Maybe you just really need to embrace the emoji.
I've seen that movie. I put it at number 5 on my worst list, which I think was like lower than most people. I think everyone else had it as number 1 or number 2.
When I was picking my worst of the year, it made the top 3, and I can't remember what the others were.
I got above that for me was like Let There Be Light and Chips and like Boo Madea.
I believe Chips was on that list too.
Fuck that movie. All right, well, the light's telling us we should probably wrap this up. I keep thinking every time I shut this door that this is just gonna fucking collapse, and I like have a quiet heart attack to myself every time it happens. All right, you want to promote your page?
Yeah. And first of all, I have to thank those of you that watch him, that have subscribed to my channel. You got me over the 1,000 mark.
Hell yeah.
I'm still fighting to get the hours viewed mark, which is 4,000 hours, which, my God. I need like 2,600. The problem is I do shorter videos a lot of times, so of course they don't add up.
So when you're asleep, just
play my playlist.
Yeah, the playlist rolling just throughout the night or something like that.
So yeah, I'm fighting to get that before the February 20th line. If I don't make it, it ain't gonna kill me, because I'm still gonna do this. I'm still gonna have a darn good time doing it. But I would love to stick it to YouTube. So so help me stick it to YouTube. Subscribe and watch the videos on The Real Geno. That's REELGENO. And also I want to say, support smaller YouTubers. All of us are kind of confused about this whole thing. That being said, at least they're not kicking us off the site, which they very well could, because it's their site. But I think all of us deserve to have a chance, and they're not handling this very well. And maybe it'll change in the future. But like I said, if you want to help me stick it to YouTube, watch the videos, help me get over that 2,600 hours by February 20th, and that way we can celebrate that we got just the tiniest victory over YouTube.
Yeah. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at the Cinema Snob, and thanks a bunch, everyone, and subscribe to our channel too, youtube.com/Stoned Gremlin Productions, so you'll get alerts and everything once we go live, and obviously whenever new videos get put up. But hopefully we'll see you in St. Louis at Wizard World this weekend, and thanks a bunch, everyone in the chat, for watching. I'll see you later.